Norbert Mao Uganda'S Justice Minister tells the world why General Kaguta Museveni is kidnapping, abducting citizens of Uganda just because he fears mass uprising. Norbert Mao agamba nti lwaki General Museveni olwaleero ali mu kuwamba abuzaawo abaana baffe nti atya okwegugunga okwewamu okwokumujja mu ntebe olwavanyuma mbu waliwo conversation General Museveni gye yafuna wakati wa Bobi Wine ne mukwano gwe okuva Europe ng'amuwa amagezi nti ateeketeeke ekibinja ky'Abannayuganda basituke beekalakaasa omulundi gumu mu nnaku ntono General Museveni ajja kuba avuddeko. Kati General Museveni akola byakola olwaleero abductions z'olaba okubuzaawo abantu baffe abikola aziiza okwegugunga okwawamu. Norbert Mao bino abyogedde ng'ali ku TV y'abazungu eyitibwa DW. Akasobola tumufune ebigambo bino nga bamukwota katoji George w'ebibuuzo n'atuuka n'ebigambo mukalira ku matama.
Hello, Africa, and welcome to this exclusive episode. Joining us today is Uganda's Justice Minister himself, Norbert Mao, who has publicly called for constitutionalism and human policing. But how much power does he really have to effect change? Is Uganda's leadership listening, or are we witnessing a government turning a blind eye to its own abuses? We are going to be talking to you about...
Yeah, before we go, Ugandan government is not listening. Its law is to abduct, instill fear in the citizens. Abantu bateekemu akatengo bawambe wambao batie bakankane ne bonoge emirundi 10 nti General Museveni kino kibi mu kikomi tebajja kuwulira. It's not listening.
Everything that's happening in Uganda, a lot of Ugandans are unhappy. Allegedly, I mean, we're talking of Ugandans, what we read on social media, on X, on Facebook and everything, especially when it comes to security in your country. You are the Minister of Justice. Maybe if you can just tell us in an overview, in a nutshell, what exactly is happening in Uganda? Why are Ugandans unhappy?
I am assuming that you are talking about the matter of trials of civilians in military courts.
Absolutely.
Mao amanyi n'ebizibu byabwe abimanyi ensi yonna byeyogerako.
And also adoptions, allegations of adoptions, kidnappings, opposition figures being arrested, just everything that's been happening that we are reading. Everything we read, everything we see in the media, you also are aware that is what is trending in the media space.
And the matter of trial of civilians in the military courts has been a subject of litigation. It started in the Constitutional Court, and the Constitutional Court had decided that the trial of civilians in military courts is unconstitutional. And there was an appeal to the Supreme Court. We now have a verdict, and the Supreme Court has decided that all cases that are in the military courts should be transferred to the civilian courts. And that is being done. It started with the case of Dr. Kizza Besigye, who is a prominent opposition leader. And now that file is with the civilians. I believe that it is a step in the right direction. It shows that the government is complying. Now, on the question of abductions and kidnaps, it is illegal for anybody to kidnap another.
But on Besigye's case and trying of civilians in UPDF court, Army court, is the government responding? Is the government replying? Or is it doing it after pressure? Oluvanyuma lw'akazita akateereddwawo Dallas President Kyagulanyi Ssentamu Bobi Wine ne bannayuganda akazito ke bataddewo okufreewinga aba political prisoners kubanga bali mu bumenyi bw'amateeka. That's why now General Museveni is trying to respond, is trying to act okulaba nga baleeta mu makooti ag'abantu nga akazito kamuyitiriddeko ne sigamba nti kubadde si kweyagalira kwe kuba tabyagalirako ddala.
Another citizen. It is illegal for anybody to abduct another. As the public face of justice, I condemn that. I do not in any way condone it.
Yeah.
And I think that if you are enforcing the law, you should still act within the law.
Uganda has been and continues to be on record for gross human rights violation over the years, like arbitrary arrests that we were just talking about and torture. The situation seems to be worsening. Why has this trend persisted?
I do believe that it is important to understand the context of everything that is going on in Uganda. When I became Minister of Justice and Constitutional Affairs, I had meetings with the diplomats.
Norbert Mao naye amaze n'akkiriza bikidala bigenda maaso mu Uganda nti bituufu
of what the security agencies in Uganda know. In the run to the elections of 2021, the Ugandan security agencies picked up a conversation between non-citizens, basically a supporter of the leading opposition party. And in that conversation, that supporter, who is a foreigner based in Europe, was responding to a question by the leader of the National Unity Platform. I don't want to mention the name now, but everybody knows the National Unity Platform, the leading opposition party, and its leader. And the leader of the National Unity Platform was asking why the United Nations does not invoke the responsibility to protect. And then this friend of his based in Europe told him that for that to happen, there should be massive bloodshed. And then he offered his advice saying, if you can mobilize thousands and thousands of people to come to the streets and protest, and the government can be provoked to kill at least 500 people, then the international community can invoke the responsibility to protect. Now, if you are the government and you hear such a conversation, obviously you can't just sit on your hands. You've got to act.
Act by abducting and torturing, or act by reacting lawfully, Honorable Minister?
You act by unlawfully abducting, kidnapping, torturing, killing. That's how you act, because you are preventing citizens, Ugandans, from uprising, from taking you out of power. So because you fear that, then you abduct them, you kill them. Bro, is that lawful? Norbert Mao. Nature Norbert Mao ali mukulimba limbensi. Eyo conversation ejali mukogera ko mbuje bafuna. It's not a secret. Kuba tebyali bya chama. Chagulanyi nga ate Chagulanyi se yabuza n'ekibuuzo. No. Norbert Mao bagala ko kifulezi nga bakitayo ku Chagulanyi. Mbu yayagala okuteekawo okuyiwa omusaayi mu Uganda. No. Jukira yali diaspora conversion kyonna bwe kiri conversion yali mu US ya mwaka ndooza guwedde munnamateeka wa president Kyagulanyi that guy ye Bruce n'agamba nti amaanyi bannayuganda mmwe mugalina. It's Ugandans with the power to change leaders, to bring in leaders. And how can you do that? You must follow the law to bring in leaders. And demonstration is among the actions that are recognized worldwide. And it's under the law of international. It's under the international law. It's acceptable. It's accepted to the citizens to rise up, to mobilize, go on the streets, take off the government. That's acceptable. So, Lawyer Bruce advised National Platform, mainly President Kyagulanyi, that now you're going back to Uganda. If you go back, you mobilize Ugandans, let them know, let them believe that they are the ones to take over Museveni. They are the ones to send out Museveni and they bring the leader they want in power. How? They must not take guns. They must not pick stones. They must not pick sticks. They must not fight one another. They must not kill themselves. No, they must not attack the army. No. Let them get up, rise up with placards, sit down in the streets or move in the streets and say Museveni must go. Then Museveni, if General Museveni reacts and they kill them, then the world will come in. That was not a secret. Byali mu lukungana convention y'omu America omwaka ogwedde 2024 ya president bwe yali mu gw'omunaana bwe yali mu America, a lawyer Bruce n'awaaga amagezi nti nga temukoze bimenya mateeka mwekalakaase Museveni ajja kuvaako. Kati kye baawulira kuba kyali open, kyali mu air, nange na story yo nagikolako wano era kweri ku mukutu guno. Kati Mao ayagala agaye muno waliwo secret yaliwo gye baatapinga muno. It was not a secret, it was a convention. Lwali lukuŋŋaana baluyita mu lukuŋŋaana bagiyita bata yali bagita ntabagano. Lwali lukuŋŋaana lw'Abannayuganda bagazi b'enkyukakyuka mu America mu diaspora. Munnamateeka oyo yabyogerera ebyo ebigambo. Kati Mao ekyapikingayo muno baafuna inside information ndewali baaba. Muri mukutta abantu bwemage.
I can tell you that
but it
in
is
that situation, the government of Uganda had to stop anything that would lead to provocation and killings.
That's why we're abducting
It's
us.
not my duty to say.
How did the government stop it?
By abducting us.
The security forces decided to arrest.
It's not arrest, it's abduction.
The ringleaders who were planning that mass uprising. And many of them were arrested. Many of them were charged. And unfortunately, some of the cases were mishandled, and the government has admitted some of those mistakes. But my point is that there is a context to what happened. And it is up to you to judge. But it's also important for the Uganda government to explain what led to that. I don't think there's any government that just wakes up and starts abducting people or kidnapping people. I also do not think that every arrest is a kidnap.
But is abducting and kidnapping lawful, Honorable Minister?
I think you can use that kind of word. What I refer to as kidnapping is when those who have not identified themselves, they come to your house and take you away. That has happened, and it is highly regrettable. But the incidents that I'm talking about were carried out lawfully by security agencies. In some cases, there were mistakes that were made, and the Uganda government has admitted those mistakes on the floor of parliament. So I would like us to distinguish between the abduction by overzealous security agencies who are politically motivated, but I also like us to understand the context of security measures that were taken by the Uganda government in order to stop a mass uprising based on incitement by those whose only focus is regime change in Uganda. So
what have you done about these overzealous security officials? What have you done about them?
Number one, you do remember that in the first military operation where the police and the army came to the streets and tried to stop demonstrations, and in that intervention, many people were killed. The official record talks about 60. In that case, the Deputy Inspector General of Police was dismissed. That one is a disciplinary measure. In other cases, other police officers were also subjected to disciplinary measures. Many of the family members were also compensated. In one case, the president of Uganda went to one of the families of somebody who was killed innocently and made a public apology and also compensated them. My main point is not to defend lawlessness by Ugandan security forces. My main point is that those who talk about Uganda should not overlook the context in which everything has been happening.
Now, you mentioned that the president visited recently the family of someone who lost their lives in Uganda. But Minister Mao, you joined government through a political deal with President Museveni, yet he is the same leader being accused of orchestrating these abductions. Does this not amount to double standards, especially when you have also spoken out strongly against abductions, but yet your own government insists these are lawful arrests? How do you justify your position? Why are these injustices escalating under your watch, yet you are the Minister for Justice and Constitutional Affairs?
As Minister of Justice and Constitutional Affairs, my job is to offer the best possible advice to the government of Uganda. Now, it is not fair for anybody to say the abductions are happening because I'm the Minister of Justice.
No.
Obviously, that is
No. I said the president is the president is the one that is allegedly being accused of orchestrating these abductions.
It's true.
He appointed you as the Minister of Justice, and you're openly coming to say, you know what, this is wrong. I am
Why don't you resign
against these abductions. And
why don't you resign?
Platform, you have clearly said you are not happy with this, and it's regrettable.
Why don't you resign?
Yet you are a minister under President Museveni, who's being allegedly accused for this. Then are these not like double standards? When you meet him, what do you tell him? What do you talk to him about?
But he himself went and admitted that what was done by some of the security forces was wrong. And yet he is the overall leader of Uganda. I do not think that if something wrong is done by people who are under your supervision, then that means that your position is untenable. It is actually precisely because of that reason that you should step and take responsibility. I think the president took responsibility. The president has been on record denouncing those acts. Personally, I have been a consistent opponent of any breaches of human rights. I sit in that cabinet.
But Mr. Mao, after General Museveni denouncing those acts, he again abducted other people. You've been everyone following. Dr. Chizabes was abducted from Kenya. He's still in prison. Machete, there are a lot of many political prisoners who were abducted. They are still in prison. Mugumya Gaddafi, Achila Ochivumbi, Bobi Wine's bodyguards. They were abducted. They were not arrested. They were abducted. Abductions, kidnaps are still going on in Uganda. And yet the guy comes out that he is against them. He is condemning them. Yet they are still going on. And again, he knows who abducts Ugandans, who is in charge of that game. And he knows where Ugandans, after abduction, where they are taken. Same way in Buya. All right? Now, how can you just say he condemns the abductions, yet he is not acting? Why not he crossing the same way? Bro, Norbert Mao. Ana Uganda kati bagezimu. Temugenda kutulimba buli mitongenda tuzanyira nko buzanyizi munoze no tujja kubireka nga bulesu bwe mutyo. Omukyala akubuuziza ekibuuzo kyangu, just a simple question was asked for you. What do you talk to Museveni? What do you talk to him? What do you tell him when you meet him about these abductions, these tortures, these kidnaps? You can't say, because for you, what you talk about is just money. You are in a deal. You went in a deal with the guy. So you only what you want, your problem is money. I know deep inside you, you feel sorry for what is going on, but you can't do anything because you also need some money in your pocket to pay your bills, to move on with life, bro. That's why you are still the Minister for Justice, but injustice being carried out to Ugandans, and you can't resign that position.
And it's my duty to always point out when there is wrongdoing and to advise that we make amends. Yesterday, we convened the meeting in Kampala to finally discuss the National Action Plan for Human Rights. And it is the responsibility of everybody to ensure that there is observance of human rights. Now, in Uganda today, there are two forces. There are those who are projecting the government of Uganda and the president of Uganda as a kind of irredeemable tyrant, and that there is actually nothing that can be done, that Ugandans can do nothing to improve the situation in the country, and that the only thing that we have to do is to change the president and to change the government.
Yeah, that's
Those are the people I call regime change fundamentalists.
Yeah.
But Uganda has a different and a very difficult history. Uganda has had a history of violence. And
who brought that history?
mass
Museveni.
murders. That has been our history.
Museveni
Some of us believe
was the
that
killer.
the time has come in Uganda to talk about a better future, to build a new consensus, to have a government which can have a clean break with the past. And that's why some of us are in this government to talk about even difficult subjects like transition.
You've never talked about it.
Peaceful change. So we believe in constructive engagement.
Bro, Ugandans, I do believe you do remember this situation. When Norbert Mao came out publicly on media and newspapers, he told the world we discussed about Museveni leaving power. And we're talking about transition. General Museveni is about to leave power and we get another president. After Norbert Mao talking that shit, General Museveni came out and called him a liar. We've never talked about that one, and that's not a reason why I gave you the job. So man, just zip your mouth, don't talk about transition, do what I gave you a job for. You just be there, eat your money, and after go home sleep. Don't talk about transition. Don't talk about my power. That's why General Museveni spoke. He came out public and said that, General Museveni, denying any peaceful talks with Norbert Mao, any transition talks, General Museveni denied that. And Norbert Mao is again here, still speaking about that, lying in the wall that he is there to sweet talk General Museveni so that he can leave power peace-free. Yet the guy said, I'll never do that over my dead body. That was what General Museveni said. And Norbert Mao is here confusing the war. General Mao, Norbert, Minister, why are you confusing the war?
I believe that my presence in the government makes me a force for good.
No.
I'm in a position
to
influence certain
You're a force for money.
Let me tell you, without voices like mine, you would not have seen someone like Colonel Kizza Besigye in a civilian court. So,
Never. Norbert Mao, please don't lie to us, bro. Don't lie to us. I do remember in the parliament, Joel Osenyonyi was putting Mao on fire, asking why Dr. Besigye is not freed. Why Machete? Why Bobby Young? Why civilians who were being charged were in a court martial not freed? Because the court martial is not there in the row. But people who are being charged in that kangaroo court, they are still in prison. Yet the court which sent them there is not in existence. So what are they doing there? Joe Osenyonyi was fighting over that with Norbert Mao. And Norbert Mao was telling Joe Osenyonyi that you have to first write and ask court to release those people. Bro, Mao yayimirira n'akangula eddoboozi n'akala n'agamba mbu ekyamazima ekirina okukolebwa mbu gavumenti teyamanya. The government never knew that the court martial is no longer in existence. That the court must write to government to know that these civilians must be freed. That's what Norbert Mao was talking in parliament. Ngagamba mbu government kuba temanyi kyokka nga government yennyini eyawaaba omusango ye yajulira nga kooti martial esaziddwawo egiddwawo, then government neejulira mu Supreme Court. Supreme Court neddamu neesala nno teriiwo, kyokka nga government weeryawo etudde, kyokka nga government eyagala era basooke bagibuulire bagiwandiikire mu butongole, kyokka nga teyabaddemu. Jolo n'abigamba omwami ono n'atandika okuseka amagye mu lukufu. Katolali agamba akulimba is deceiving the world that it is his voice which helped Dr. Colonel Kizza Besigye to be brought in civilian court. Yet he denied it, bro. He said let the court first write to government. Bobby Wine is the one who has exerted that excessive pressure to the government so that Colonel Dr. Kizza Besigye was brought in civilian court. Bobby Wine gave this government 48 hours. When Besigye is free or in civilian court. If they elapse without that, any of them is done, government will face fire. Bro, within 24 hours, Besigye Canal was in civilian court and the new officers were sealed off. That's Bobby Wine. Now Norbert Mao is here deceiving the world that he is the one who exerted pressure. He's the one who uplifted his voice, Dr. Kizza Besigye to be in a civilian court. Bro, why are you deceiving us, bro?
My position is important because I'm capable of being like a linesman.
No.
I can raise the flag.
You can't.
When the line has been crossed.
You can't, Mao.
And I think voices like mine should give Ugandans hope.
Mao, your voice.
It is not my duty to sanitize what is going wrong in the country.
Yeah, I applaud you for that.
To explain to friends of Uganda, because Uganda can easily blow up. Uganda can go the direction of some of the countries that have collapsed. Therefore, the regime change fundamentalists should understand that Uganda is at a delicate point, and we have a responsibility, all of us, to talk to one another. Not to simply throw labels to each other. Even when I'm talking to the Uganda government officials, including the president, I tell our president that please don't call every critic an enemy of Uganda. And I also tell the critics of Uganda that it is wrong for you to refer to the government of Uganda as a junta.
It's a junta.
I'm a minister, but I don't think I'm part of a junta.
You are part.
That is totally acceptable.
But would you blame people when they end up using that word, especially when we see the president's son coming out on social media as a military man? His language is sometimes very harsh, but then when other opposition figures use such
they are
language,
abducted.
then they're abducted, they're tortured, but he's allowed to say anything that he wants, whether even against any other government. Diplomatically, how does that work, Honorable Minister?
I don't think just because the Chief of Defense Forces, who is the president's son, talks the way he talks, is a justification for others to also use reckless language.
Then what is being done about him? What is being done? Because at least, charity should begin at home.
Yeah. What is so special? What is so special about him? That's the question. Why him is not arrested? Why him is not abducted? Why him he can speak whatever he wants speaks, but others are not allowed to speak what they want to speak? Bro, that's a nice question, bro. No, but Mao, you can't answer that question. You can't, Mao.
Maybe these opposition figures are learning from him because nothing is being done about his language on social media platforms. He's someone who is supposed to be very influential in the country.
The president has talked about the Chief of Defense Forces comments on social.
Has talked about his comments, and why is he not talking about Machete? comments? Why is he not talking about Bobby Yanga dress code? Why is he not talking about Ugandans change-seeking forces? Why is he not talking about their acts? And he responds by abducting them, torturing them. Bro, is that how things must be? Omukyala agambye nti charity must begin at home. Toyinza kugamba tojja kukwasa mwana wo mpisa ate okwasa abo abalala empisa. Mao.
Social media, he has addressed it as the commander-in-chief, and I think it is up to him to deal with it. He knows what to do to deal with it. It's up to him as commander-in-chief, but that is still not an explanation.
You as the Minister of Justice, what is supposed to be done in that instance?
I don't think
give you
it's
answer.
acceptable, of course, for a chief of defense forces to announce that somebody is supposed to be hanged or to announce things that are devoid of any due process. And it is important that the president of Uganda deals with that. But unless we are simply interested in moot debates, it is important for us to give the president of Uganda that opportunity to deal with it.
It's taking
The laws
long.
of you.
Is it not taking long?
Yeah.
Is it not taking long, Honorable Minister?
Why others abducted within a minute?
I don't know. I'm sure the president of Uganda should have an opportunity to talk to you also. He
Absolutely.
should give you an interview.
I'm looking forward to that.
And you ask him. I believe even the chief of defense forces should speak to you. We are a government that has a constitution and we have laws. And as Minister for Constitutional Affairs, my duty is to ensure that everybody respects the law. It doesn't matter who. There's nobody who is above the law. That has got to be asserted. So I'm on your side when you say we should draw a line between what is acceptable and what is unacceptable. Now, the only difference is that I am telling you who has the responsibility to deal with that. If I had that responsibility, I would know what to do. So it's our duty to continue pressing the president to take action within the law, because laws are not suggestions. Obedience to the law is mandatory for everyone. But that's not the biggest problem Uganda faces now. Uganda faces people who want to change government.
Yes,
and
who want to change
also. And I think as a person who lived and grew up in Uganda as a young man, a country which faced a lot of violence and bloodshed, I think we need to find a solution. And we have examples. Even South Africa is a good example. Even if you need to sit around the table with people you really, really detest and disagree with, for the sake of the future and the sake of our children, we need to do that. That's why the ministry ahead is now working on a national transitional justice law. Under that law, we shall be having a national dialogue and reconciliation process. And in that conversation, that's when we shall be talking about the role of the military. The military has been a very, very important player in Uganda. In fact, they have always intervened and messed up the politics of Uganda. And I believe that in that conversation, we shall talk about the proper role of the military. We have never had a trans-regime army in Uganda. Every government has collapsed with its army, and every new government has come in with its own army. So if we want to build a trans-regime army, then the character of that army must align with the constitutional aspirations of Ugandans. That is my belief as Minister of Justice. And I cannot contradict those Ugandans who are saying, the army should stay out of partisan politics. The army should guard the state. The army should not be a regime army.
Right. Now, Ugandans have also witnessed high-profile disappearances. You mentioned earlier of opposition figures like Kizza Besigye, who's right now in prison, and many others. In some cases, families, Honorable Minister, go months without answers. People are just wondering what mechanisms, if any, exist within the government to prevent such cases. And if these abductions and human rights violations continue unchecked, what do you fear will be the long-term consequences for Uganda's democracy and stability? Are we heading toward an irreversible decline in civil liberties, or what is your comment on that?
I believe that Uganda is a country which has a lot of democratic potential. And that is why many of our neighbors that have problems, their citizens run to Uganda. I don't think they would be coming to Uganda if Uganda was such a disastrous country. We are hosting.
It's quite confusing, actually. We are hosting a lot of refugees. A lot of people actually go and seek refuge in Uganda. But Ugandan nationals, we have many in exile. We have opposition figures. We've seen bullets flying on the streets of Uganda, attacking opposition figures. Right now, human rights bodies are saying Kizza Besigye should be released. We saw pictures of him, videos of him just yesterday. The man is not healthy. The man is sick. But the government seems not to be doing anything. I understand you're also saying you are taking the law. But then if you agree that many issues or many cases have been handled wrongly in Uganda, then why not also be sympathetic to someone like Kizza Besigye?
Yeah. How can you be sympathetic to refugees and you're not sympathetic to your natives? How can that be? That's a liar. That's a lie, bro. And McHugh, what we must know, the world what must know is those refugees who are coming from our neighboring countries, their countries are not stable just because of General Museveni. General Museveni is the one in those countries trying to disrupt peace so that he can get money from the world to save, to protect the refugees, to fund the refugees. That's his game. DR Congo is not stable just because the world knows this. Even Congolese are speaking about this. They are pinning General Museveni and Kagame to be behind M23. Yo. So, if the guy is the one supporting rebels to disrupt the peace of a certain country and citizens of that country come in Uganda, then you say that guy loves refugees. People are running to Uganda as refugees because Uganda is peaceful. When Ugandans are running out from Uganda, bro, they come in because they don't know exactly what's going on in Uganda, and they come in because they don't have anywhere to go. Bro, this is just a matter of death and what? Die and death. Chiringa kubuka musepichi ya mukalai nojo bika mulyo wepicho kati abaduke Congo abaduke wa ne bajje Uganda mbaze ofuna kuba ba refugee kubuka mukalai ya butacha muse n'ogwa mu kyoto wakati be bajje Uganda. But after realizing that Uganda is so bad, is so hot than where they came from, they go back. Now Norbert Mao is relying on that because Uganda is hosting a lot of refugees. Then you say Uganda is peaceful, yet the guy who is disrupting peace in those countries is in Uganda, General Museveni. Bro. Mao.
It's this.
Mao. Bro, get serious. Get serious. The world is watching, Mao.
Kizza Besigye is a citizen. According to the authorities, he has got cases to answer. The Supreme Court has said the trial should not be in a military court. The government is complying with that directive. So his trial is going to move to the civilian courts. He will appear.
Are the Ugandan courts captured, Honorable Minister, by the government?
Mm-hmm.
The Ugandan courts are appointed by the government. Every government appoints its courts all over the world.
So it's not.
Now,
It's not.
I think to use the word that the Ugandan courts are captured is really irresponsible, because there is no country which does not appoint its own judges. Even those countries that we admire, like America, would you say that the American courts are captured by the Republican Party?
No, it's
Simply
good when we
because
ask this. It's good when we ask these questions, because some governments will be saying, no, the courts stand on their own. We don't make decisions or whatever. So this is it's good when we're speaking to a minister of justice of a country like Uganda. And we ask these questions for people to understand how the courts and the government work. So this is exactly why I asked this question. So that means the president has a right to just tell the courts that please release or keep Besigye, right?
I don't think any of us can do that. There is already an example that the courts have made a decision which the government has been grumbling about. When the court said all the cases of civilians should be transferred from the military courts, that's a decision that our president has complained about. Some government officials have complained about it. Now, if the Supreme Court could say no trials of civilians in the military court, that should itself tell you that the courts are very independent, because otherwise somebody should have made a call to the Supreme Court and said, please make a ruling that it is okay to try civilians in the military courts. Now, that did not happen. So you do have an answer to your question actually there.
It's not clear, absolutely not clear, because it's more like the courts favor other people, but other people are not favored. But anyway, do you see any real political will within the government to change this, or is Uganda stuck in a cycle of repression?
I wouldn't call that Uganda being stuck. No country can be stuck. Uganda as a republic is still actually a very young country. The Republic of Uganda started in 1962.
You call that young, Minister?
In terms of a country, we are very young. What about these countries like the US, which started in 1776?
Let's stop comparing ourselves to the West all the time.
Compare yourself to political philosophy. I'm talking about political philosophy. You could say South Africa is also a very young country, because really they got into real democracy only in 1994. So Uganda is also in its own journey as a country. And I believe that we are capable of breaking that cycle. And we can only break this cycle if we have friends who understand what is going on. Because it looks like those who comment about countries like Uganda, they only believe that once you change a regime, then that is something which is very good. I believe in change, but I also believe in sustainable change. Otherwise, you end up with a situation like Libya. You end up with chaos. The situation in Uganda is such that many of our citizens are waiting to see dialogue. And that is one of my major projects. Ugandans have to talk about a future. This year, the Constitution of Uganda is 30 years old. Citizens are talking about things like term limits. They want term limits restored in the Constitution. I support those citizens, and I think it is a desirable thing. Citizens are talking about free and fair elections. I have taken a bill to the cabinet of Uganda to make electronic voting compulsory so that we can deal with the problems of ballot stuffing. But of course, the international media is interested in some of the more dramatic aspects. That is why even you can say, why don't you free Dr. Kizza Besigye? Dr. Kizza Besigye is entitled to his freedom. He has got very capable lawyers. He has the right to apply for bail. so that he can go home and attend his trial from home.
Would he be granted the bail? Would he be granted also an opportunity to be at least treated in hospital, not in prison?
Actually, even while under detention, he was taken to a hospital of his own choice by his own doctors, and even his own sister, who is a medical doctor, was there to supervise that. I am assuring everybody that Dr. Kiza Besigye is entitled to due process and he will get it. The question of his guilt or innocence is really not for me as a government official. That is for the courts.
Before we wrap up this discussion, Honorable Minister, I mean, the story of Uganda is a very strong case that we can go on and on, but where are the NUP supporters who were arrested in 2020 during the previous election campaigns like Kibalama and Machete? They've not been seen yet, Minister. Where are they?
The majority of those who were arrested have been released. The few cases, there are few cases where even the government does not know where they are, because every once in a while you hear an announcement from the main opposition party that one of their members is missing. In some cases, some of those members have popped up in foreign countries. But it is the duty of the government to account for the citizens.
Yes.
So for those whose presence, who are not in the prisons, for those whose location we don't know, it's the duty of the government to continue investigating. And we have previously called upon the NUP leaders to cooperate with the government also, to let us know whether they have any information. If such people are dead, then the laws of Uganda say that if in 7 years you are not found, then you will be presumed dead.
All right.
But
so it's also the same case with Bobby Wine's brother, Nyanzi, who was also abducted by armed plainclothes operatives. His whereabouts are also still unknown. 4 NUP Electoral Commission members were abducted, and the vehicle in which they were traveling in was reportedly seen on Google Map in Buya Military Barracks, Honorable Minister. And family members of Nyanzi reported the case to police, but they said he's not in their custody.
Fortunately, we are able to share whatever information we have. If there's something we don't know officially, then we say we don't know. It is not the duty of unknown security operatives to arrest anybody in Uganda.
Okay. What about the recent one? The recent one, just this Tuesday, NUP MP Derek Nyeko reported that vans locally known as the drones, which are known for abducting people, allegedly, in Uganda, were surrounding his home in the night. Do you have any comment on that?
This is Chaguranyi Nation. The world is watching, bro. I'm impressed with this woman, bro. The world is watching, man.
What I can tell you is that at the Ministry of Justice, we have even launched a hotline. And I wish such people would use the hotlines for reporting cases of human rights abuses rather than resorting to media drama. Sometimes you have got to take some of these reports with a pinch of salt. Every once in a while, you get a member of parliament saying, while on my way home, I was being followed by a car.
But why would they make that up, Honorable Minister? In your opinion, why would they make this up?
If it's not there, if it's not true.
I think the best thing is for them to actually report to the authorities. There are people who sometimes call me and tell me, I hear there's a plan to arrest me. And when I talk to the security forces, they say, there's no such plan. I know that because of what happened in the last elections, there is a sense of paranoia. But I would like to assure all the political actors in this country and those who seek power through elections that there is no reason for you to fear if you are not involved in any subversive activities. And of course, if you're involved in subversive activities, it is important that you are subjected to due process. Abductions and kidnaps are unacceptable. That is the bottom line. Torture is unacceptable. That is the bottom line. So we are willing to listen to all these reports. Whatever you have shared with me, we shall investigate them.
Young Ugandans on platforms, Minister, like TikTok and Twitter have been vocal exposing abductions and speaking out against injustices. Do you think this new wave of digital activism is putting real pressure on the government, or is it simply an outlet for frustration?
Because it's media drama.
Impact?
Media drama.
Social media is very, very impactful. I can tell you, without social media, without TikTok, without all these voices, multiple voices, perhaps the government would still be in slow motion regarding the implementation of the Supreme Court directives. I sit in government. I'm the Minister of Justice. So obviously, I feel the pressure. It is a positive pressure because it is the duty of the government to respond to what citizens are demanding. So those who use social media are having a real impact in influencing the democratic processes in Uganda. And I would encourage them. I would only caution them that, social media is like fire. It has good attributes. It also has bad attributes. So we should be responsible when we use social media. We should not use artificial intelligence to fake voices. We should not use artificial intelligence to fake incidents that have not occurred. Otherwise, we would make a bad situation worse. Otherwise, social media, in my opinion, is a force for good, and I encourage it.
Thank you so much, Honorable Minister, Uganda's Justice Minister, Norbert Mao, for joining us here on DW Africa.
Yeah, thank you, DW Africa. Thank you, Minister Norbert Mao, Justice Minister Norbert Mao. You reporting, telling the world what's happening in your premises, that drones are surrounding your house, are surrounding your home. You don't know what's going on. They want to abduct you. Norbert Mao calls that media drama. That you should not be involved in media drama, bro. That you should call a police. Yet police is the one, bro. Listen to this. Chairman Nyanzi Muntu wa Watu was abducted when he was coming from National Unity Platform offices, going back home. He was abducted. Bro, family members went checking all police stations, one again and everywhere. They told them, we don't know where he is because we are not the one with him. We're not the one who took him away. Now you're telling me I should report to police. Yet now Chairman Nyanzi's back was dropped back home by the same guys who abducted him. And even police again never knew that Chairman Nyanzi is being brought back, bro. And you want me to report to police when even police fears those guys? No. Norbert Mao, you know the truth. You are just there to keep your daily blade, but you can't do anything, bro. I'm just happy for you that you can come out and speak it, that abductions, torture is no good. There, I give you credit. Thank you for that. But we need actions. Bro, we're here to get a new Uganda. And we will not get a new Uganda where some citizens are halfway citizens or not yet even graded as citizens. And someone, just because he's the son to a president, is more citizen than me and you. He can speak funny words, bro, treasonable words, treasonable statements, and nothing is done to him, bro. That the president talked about it. And when Machete Yasin say we need change in Uganda, Bobby Yanga say we need change in Uganda. When I say we need change in Uganda, we get abducted, we get tortured, we get kidnapped. Because we are not Ugandans, because we are not sons to a president. That's why we who talk about that we kidnapped and abducted and tortured. Yet him, when he talks about invading Kenya, invading Sudan, invading countries, even chasing away ambassadors from Uganda, for him, he's no criminal. You just thank him and they talk about it. Why not talking about these other Ugandans who are seeking for change? Why do you need to abduct, kidnap, torture them? Because you fear mass uprising. No matter what, how many times you fear General Museveni, the time will come for you and Ugandans will rise up that will kick you out of that chair.